Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a joint session of Congress Thursday, shortly after being welcomed to the White House by President Biden as part of a state visit. Human rights groups have accused Modi of discriminating against his country's Muslim population and silencing dissent. Modi, who has also overseen a crackdown on the free press, made the rare concession of answering unscripted questions from reporters at the White House. Both he and Mr. Biden sidestepped questions about humanitarian concerns in India and instead focused on their nation's economic partnership.
And with this visit, we're demonstrating once more how India and the United States are collaborating on nearly every human endeavor and delivering progress across the board.
CBS News Chief White House correspondent Nancy Cordes has more on Modi's stay in Washington.
Namaskar.
He's been accused of dismantling democracy in India. And yet, Washington rolled out the red carpet today for Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Tonight, he'll be treated to a rare state dinner, a sign of how crucial his friendship is as the U.S. competes with India's neighbor, China.
We're straightforward with each other, and we respect each other.
Under Modi's leadership, India's government has undermined elections, press freedom, the judicial system, and the rights of the country's Muslim minority.
Democracy runs in our veins.
For one of the first times ever today, Modi had to face a group of reporters and take a question about that.
There are many human rights groups who say that your government has discriminated against religious minorities and sought to silence its critics.
He denied all of it.
Values, there is absolutely no discrimination, neither on basis of caste, creed, or age.
President Biden took questions, too, defending his decision this week to describe China's president, Xi Jinping, as a dictator. China called his comments absurd and irresponsible.
Saying what I think is the facts with regard to the relationship with India, with China, is just not something I'm going to change very much.
And Nancy Cordes joins me now from the White House. Nancy, is there something in particular that the Biden administration wants out of this visit, or is it merely good relations with India?
Well, there's really a lot of action items that came out of this meeting, John. The leaders were filled with news about all the agreements that they had struck when it comes to semiconductors, building jet engines in India. That was something that the Indian government was working on with GE, AI, space exploration, all kinds of areas where the two leaders say that they can work together. But more broadly, you're right, what they're trying to do is send a message, the U.S. at least, that they've got a close friend and ally in India, and that should make China somewhat concerned. And we've been seeing this systematically from the U.S. since the beginning of the Biden administration, really building up their relationships not only with India, but with other Asian nations, with South Korea, with Japan, with Australia. We're seeing them strike the same kinds of deals over building submarines, creating new alliances. This has really been a major piece of the Biden strategy since the beginning, as they seek to send a message to what they see as a somewhat belligerent China bulking up its military.
And as a part of that strategy, the president has at times spoken eloquently about democracy versus autocracy. So then, How notable is it that he's downplayed those topics with respect to this relationship with India?
It's very notable. You're right. How many times have we heard him give a variation of that speech talking about how democracy versus autocracy is the fight of our times? And yet, most human rights leaders would argue that Narendra Modi has overseen what they describe as a slide into autocracy, which is very striking for a democratic nation like India. But this is realpolitik. The U.S. makes friends all over the world who have some practices that it doesn't like. Think of Saudi Arabia, for example, a key ally in the Middle East. The U.S. turns a blind eye to some of its human rights rights abuses because it's such a vital strategic partner. And the president is doing the same here. In fact, it's not just the president. It's the Speaker of the House. It's the lawmakers who sat and applauded in Congress listening to Narendra Modi speak. It's just such a vital country to U.S. interests right now. Not only is it the most populous nation in the world, but at some point it may be the biggest economy in the world. It is moving in that direction, and the U.S. wants to keep India close because the alternative is an estranged India and an estranged China.
Speaking of estranged China, the president was estranging it more with Xi Jinping reiterating that he was a dictator. How does that work at cross purposes, or does it not? Does it affirm the fact that the Secretary of State was just over in China trying to calm things in that relationship?
It does seem like the kind of thing that sort of slipped out. The president was at a fundraiser in California a few days ago, and he sort of offhandedly described the Chinese President Xi Jinping as a dictator, which is sort of saying the quiet part out loud. There are lots of experts who would describe Xi Jinping as a dictator, but it's not the kind of thing that you typically hear a U.S. president say out loud, especially when they are trying to mend a pretty fraught relationship with China. But the president was given an opportunity to take it back. He said he's not going to.
Indeed. Nancy Cordes at the White House. Thanks so much, Nancy.
You're welcome, John.